recording.
Okay, class, I promised you this week that we're still taking a half hour at least every class period to write in your journals. But I told you that we're just doing mini lessons right now. Anybody remember what we talked about yesterday?
We talked about our papers.
Thesis.
We talked about audience and purpose. Now, we did audience yesterday, so today we're going to do purpose. So to back up to that, we're doing purpose today. On your way to school today, you saw a fire. Now you can kind of make it up as you go, but what I want you to do is pretend that you're writing a classroom journal. Just call out some sentence to me that you saw a fire on your way to school. Now, what would you write down in your journal? I mean, just give me some good ideas for sentences.
I would write down how big the fire was. I would write down.
Okay, you'd say how big it was. Let's see, what else could we do? You'd say, talk about fire trucks.
Talk about how many people died in the fire.
Talk about how I saved them all before coming to school.
People there. Or I would say or some. Let me see. All right, so you wrote down in your journal, you're talking about this fire that you saw and apparently went superhero on. All right, now, in the class later on that day, you have to write an article for the school paper. Here you're writing for a journal. Now you're writing for a school paper. Now, you're going to say a lot of the same things. But what are we going to say? We're going to try to use what's the most important first. Because in a newspaper, you know, you want it right away. If you have a headache, you have the first sentence says, this is what's happening. It's not written like a magazine article or story. It's going to say, at X time, a fire broke out at whatever. Then it'll say what it caused, and it'll say, you know, who was hurt. Then it might say, you know, so many people pushed to the hospital, it's answered by whatever department. It's going to be short, but not too short. But then it's going to have plenty of details. It's going to kind of be a balance between it. Where here, you know, you're just kind of going on, you know, what you saw, maybe how you felt. You could say, you know, how you felt about what you saw, how you were feeling inside. Here, you're not going to do that because you're not going to be talking about yourself. People wanting information about what happened here. See, what you're doing here is you're writing about a different purpose, and where you're writing is going to help dictate what kind of purpose. You're going to write differently in your journals than you are in your school paper. In your journal, you might be writing a letter to yourself. You might be just putting thoughts down on paper, stream of consciousness. You might be just writing down how you feel, or jotting something down before you can forget it. School paper, you have a different purpose in mind. You have a certain audience, people who want to read the news. People want to read about the paper and get more information, see if you know someone's hurt. So you're going to write for different reasons. All right, what's some other ways that we can write about this fire? Well, since we went and played superhero, we're going to write in a witness report. Now, a witness report in this case isn't going to be a piece of paper and you just say what happened. It's going to be a bunch of boxes. What are we probably going to have to put in those boxes? What would you probably have to write in a witness report? Names. Okay. What else?
Times.
Right. Times. That's going to be pretty important. You're going to probably have things in chronological, as in time order as possible. It's going to be what happened in what order. And of course, you're going to have most detail of how everything. You're probably going to have more details in the paper because why don't you go into, you know, all the details in the paper? Right, you don't have space. You have space for what's important. You might have a little more depending on whatever articles are there. for the witness report. They need all the evidence they can get. So, and it's also going to be, both of these you're going to try to be, what's the word, when you try not to have any bias? Yeah, objective. Where here you could be more subjective if you want to. You're probably more likely going to be. And here they especially don't want you to be subjective. And then here, you know, you're going to try to be objective as well. One more way we can write about it. Let me see. Now you go home and you're going to write on Facebook or Twitter or IM. Just some sort of instant message. MySpace, blog it. Well, let's not say a blog. Let's say Facebook or Twitter. You know, 140 characters or less. You're going to say for the first time on Facebook for the world to see what you saw. How are you kind of going to say it? Because you're going to write differently than how you did over here.
I'll just say it like as short and precisely as possible.
Short,
You shorthand, like say,
concise. Yeah.
like, instead of putting 4 words, you might just put like the you for you.
Mm-hmm. You, I. Probably use a lot of I statements. You might just be declarative. There's going to be a little bit of detail, but not a lot. You say, I saw a house burn down today, or I'm scared to death because. But you're not going to say paragraphs about how you're feeling unless you go in a chat or something. You be chatting back and forth. There's going to be little short statements. You know, this is a style of writing. It's published. You know, it's not peer reviewed, but it's still a style of writing. It still accomplishes its purposes like this, communication. So, all right, let's do this again. But get out a piece of paper, please. But this time we're not going to write about fire.
Can I borrow a piece of paper from someone?
No.
You should come across more prepared.
Well, I have some, it's just under plans and things that don't fit to.
All right. Every row in this class, you're going to write about something different. So this would be row number 1, row number 2, row number 3. And then when so-and-so comes back in, they'll write on row number 4. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to write 5 sentences because we're not going to be doing Twitter on these. We're going to write 5 sentences about this big old house. You're going to make it up, except I'm going to tell you what you're writing under. I'll number 1, that's you, Julius. You're going to write about how the house is haunted. It's haunted by a ghost, and you're writing into a ghost hunter's blog. So try to think of ways in which you're going to change the way you write. You're going to direct what you're saying toward to meet the purpose of the ghost hunter's blog. You can make up the details, but aim it toward people who read them. All right, row number 2. You're going to try to sell this big old house. You're writing for real estate ad. For sale. And number 3, you've got, no, I'm going to do the 4th one for this one. I'm going to say, tear it down. You're going to write a letter to the newspaper why this house needs to be torn down. So, letter to the editor. Same house, maybe. Definitely different reasons for writing about it. So, go ahead and write 5 sentences. Take about 4 minutes on this. And I'll come around and give you pointers.